All right, ladies and gentlemen, hard act to follow here. We're going to be having a panel discussion, and it's called The Distortion of History of World War II. The moderator of this discussion will be Mr. Makowski. Professor Andrzej Kamiński is not with us, unfortunately. Alberto Trujillo is here, founder and president of the Polish-Spanish Historical and Cultural Association, Poland First to Fight. And Stefan Komar is going to join us. He's the son of a Warsaw Uprising insurgent whose Battalion Zośkla was awarded the Righteous Among Nations Medal for liberating Gęsiówka concentration camp in Poland's capital. Stefan Komar has been fighting for years against historically false and offensive term like Polish death camps, amongst others as a member of the Polish Media Issues Group. Gentlemen, good morning. Nice to see you. Good morning. Please. Let me get my book out of your way.
We're going to have, unfortunately, very short, but I guess very intensive discussion. Let me start from the very basic question, but every one of you have a different perspective to that question. How from your field of interest, your field of work, your experience, you're going to fight, and how can you fight with those kind of distortions of the Polish history, of the historical facts, from the institutional perspective, as Professor Berendt, to media perspective, as Mr. Komar is working on. So let's just answer quickly from my left hand to the last participant. How, from your personal experience, in your field of interest, can you fight with those kind of things that we saw on that presentation? Professor Berendt.
Shortly, using means that we possess in in different kinds of institutions, we are to be both active and reactive. Active, it means to use all tools available to present the true story of the past, among others about the Second World War and experience of the Polish society during the war, with exhibitions, books, theater performances, also computer games. Yes, with using of true picture of the past. On the other way, of course, we face falsification, distortions, lies, even lies. So we are to show what is wrong with the story, the narrative about the past. We are lucky now to have means, money, institution, manpower to act both ways, just now.
Okay, thank you. You have a microphone there. You have it. No, there, yeah, let's speak, but briefly.
Okay, I am in great extent. I agree with Professor Berendt. So all means have to be used, and institutional and also educational. And trying to use also the most popular culture to approach this problem. So movies, games, but of course all of that requires money.
Professor Krystyna Zamorska.
Thank you. From my perspective as a Polish American and an academic and activist, I see that we went from, some of this is mistakes, ignorance, but some of it is intentional activism. And someone like Professor Gross, and this unfortunate and deliberate focus on World War II as Polish-Jewish relations is itself a distortion, because we talk about the genocide without the war. So we need to point out in our work, in our writing, in conferences, that the genocide happened in the context of the war. And there's also, so I define people like Grabowski, academic activists, and unfortunately it's common. Intentional focus, it's ethnocentric and biased. And it should be pointed out and challenged. And I do that in my work. I go to conferences, I react to faulty articles. We pass things around as a group, informing each other. And there's also media activism. You know, that famous example we just had was Andrea Mitchell and Secretary Pompeo making absurd statements while visiting Poland earlier this year, and we reacted to that. And I also wrote to Secretary's office and pointing out to people and asking them who are their speechwriters, right? So people are trained coming out of school, becoming journalists, becoming legislative staffers who are coming with false history, which needs to be corrected, needs to be challenged. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here because of my experience basically challenging the and reacting to statements or texts that are appearing in the press. And I've observed, I've had very many close observations of the reactions of the staff of the newspapers, the editors, and I've seen where we've been successful, and I've seen many patterns of distortions that I think we can already kind of predict, and we should already have prepared analysis of these false claims and these false statements, and we should be simply pushing to preemptively challenge all these distortions with the same media that repeatedly do it over and over again. What we are facing is definitely censorship. There is absolutely a glass ceiling for the Polish voice in this matter. I've bumped my head on it many times. Many people haven't even gotten there. Many people who try, they get burned. I've put a lot of thought into this, and I found that there are some weaknesses in regards to the media, and one of the weaknesses of the media is that it pretends to be credible. That's their image. Why would somebody want to read a paper that's not credible? And the fact of the matter is that the truth is on our side, and a lot of these things that we're fighting are false. And it's really, and then there's the other issue, and this is with academia, their weakness is that they're supposed to be about freedom of speech and debate and coming to the truth by debating things and stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but yet they're engaging in censorship, which is something that they don't want to hear and they don't want anybody around them to see. One of the ways in which we're censored is simply purely we ask for a letter to be printed, it doesn't get printed. Or we ask for a letter to be printed and then they edit it. So there'll be a long-winded article with numerous distortions, and somebody in this room sends a letter challenging the factuality of the distortions, and what do? They cut it down to 3 sentences, and then they give the author of the article a chance to rebut those 3 sentences with further distortions, and then that's it. Oh no, that's it. Enough. We're done. What I found very effective is, and the notion is that the people who are doing this, I'm not going to really try to explain. It's not my job to explain why they're doing it. I just know that they're doing it. I know that for example, one of the funniest things I saw was there was a letter by by the parliamentarian Kawczynski, who was supposed to be here. So he wrote a letter complaining about the fact that some article didn't mention the word Germans in regards to the camps, and he was saying that, you know, Nazi Germany, Nazi Germans. And then I saw his letter that he posted, and then I saw what actually appeared in I believe it was The Guardian. They actually removed the word German from his letter, complaining about the fact that they're not using the word German, not German. So he put German Nazis in his letter, and then they removed German, and then when you call them, they go, well, everyone knows who the Nazis were.
Not everyone knows. Let's finish a little bit here, because we don't have enough time to have a follow-up for this very interesting notion. But I would like to also ask another question, practical, and also one question for every one of you, because I don't want to be asking individual question, of course, because of the lack of the time. But the issue is very stressing, very important, and we can refer to that every one of us personally. The Netflix, the biggest streaming company in the world, recently released the movie The Devil Next Door, the documentary movie about this kind of Ukrainian death camps in Treblinka. The guard of the Treblinka that was moving to United States. Then he lived here, and he had a huge process in Jerusalem. But in this movie, the Polish map during the Second World War was presented as after the war, with the borders and death camps in our country, as it was quasi democratic or some kind of independent, like after the war regime. How would you fight with this kind of situation? Because Polish government was involved, Polish internals were involved, journalists, but from your perspective, how would you fight this kind of specific issue? Because I would like to speak about the specific issues.
So, shortly, what we are presenting must be correct. It is the main principle. We are not able to avoid such situation because it happens that people are stupid or are doing intentionally wrong, as Professor Zamorska mentioned. And here we can only react on such situation, and there was such a reaction to present time map of Poland. On the other hand, I have to add something to this question and to the previous question. So we also should not hesitate to ask ourselves difficult questions, to be prepared for difficult questions. Because, for example, soldiers of the national movement were fighting for independence of Poland before the Second World War, during the whole Second World War, but we must also answer such a question, why there was no institution of national movement in Żegota? Because such a question is asked, and we must look for an answer, for an explanation, to prepare for discussions. And we must not leave a space not overworked by us. It is our duty also.
Thank you.
Okay, as I have been the one that has been talking longest, I will do the shortest reply. And maybe it will be considered politically not very correct, but Netflix is and companies like Netflix, that maybe they are doing it by ignorance. I don't think so. I am not so naive. When do these things, they only react to one thing: the pocket and the business. They are private companies. So what more can I say? So if, for instance, I do not pay for Netflix, I am not interested in the product that they can show me. and they can't sell me. So if I don't like what they are doing, I simply stop paying.
So the boycott is your answer.
Yes.
Short answer to the film. The response from the Polish government was important because I heard about it here. My brother told me, oh, did you hear about that? So that got reproduced in the media, and that's very important. As far as proactively, I just want to comment that we can all build base of knowledge by using our communities, our libraries. I sneak in history of World War II into my syllabi in literature. I teach Eva Hoffman, who was mentioned here. She wrote a great biography, Lost in Translation. She ended up leaving. She was a child immigrant of Jewish heritage. Her mother was pregnant with her in 1945. She grew up in Krakow and later moved to Canada, and she became an editor of New York Times, and she was culturally Polish. She was so distressed by not being the right kind of Jewish in America that she moved to London. And her kind of books should be promoted and read. Let's go to our libraries. We'll prepare a list. I have a list. We'll put it on a website of the books that Americans or people in our communities should be reading that are informative, have discussion groups in our communities. So it should be reacted to on every level. And Professor Kamiński, who's not here today, he's doing a wonderful project on the level of the academia. He's doing proactive editing of books. He's been doing this in Poland for years, and now he's being supported by the Fundacja Narodowa. It's called Recovering Forgotten History, and scripts of books are being distributed among academics who are preparing to publish. They get together, they read the scripts, they get together for 2 weeks every summer, and they critique and share so stupidity doesn't get published, intentional bias doesn't get into books. And those kinds of projects on every level are needed, because we have to catch up. There are two tracks that we are dealing with. One, Poland and its history got left behind. In the meantime, people have been speaking about us in correct way, in a way that's ethnocentric and biased, and we need to address the errors and the entrenched bias that's in the historical narrative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stefan Komar.
All right.
How would you respond to that?
All right, basically what I didn't get to finish was that being that there are these weaknesses, we need to get our voice heard. People need to hear all the things that were said today, and to do that, we have to overcome the censorship. The way we overcome the censorship is by reaching out to public opinion in every which way possible that we can. Thank God we have social media now, but now there are attempts now to silence people in social media. Now the reason is people, in my opinion, who don't like what we have to say, which should not be offensive to anybody, don't want this to be heard, and we need to overcome that. And we need to work together and do a little bit more, and do it preemptively and do it systematically and not just in reaction, because this has been going on for too long, and we need historians from Poland to be available to us, to be able to actually be able to present the facts. They need to be able to present the facts. They need to be coming here more often. You know, I went to, there's so many projects, but we have to do something. So I'm going to just mention one thing. So I went to the library one day and I took a book about World War II history / the Holocaust. And then in it, it says, Hitler didn't put the concentration, and this is a book that's addressed to students, like probably maybe, you know, middle school, or even maybe upper elementary school. And it says, Hitler put the camps, the concentration camps in Poland because he knew the Germans would oppose them. But the Poles, due to their history of anti-Semitism, would not object. All right? So this is out there. How many more books are out there? Are we going to do a campaign to now go into every library? There is supposedly an organization that's doing that. It can be done, you know, to a certain extent, but it does require a little bit of money, maybe to at least help the volunteers who are willing to do that. There's people willing to do that, but they have other things to do. They have bills to pay, stuff like that. But, I mean, this is one project that could be done. This book is in there for I don't know how many years. And believe it or not, it was word for word. There was a big uproar a few years prior to me discovering this book. In the New Jersey Board of Education website, some student wrote an essay, and it actually had that word for word. And there was a big uproar. How dare the New Jersey Board of Education, you know, put this on their website? Well, somebody was supposed to look into it from, and I don't want to like blame anybody, from the consulate. I don't think they did anything about it because they never found that textbook where that kid got it from. More than likely got it because it was word for word. Now, and I'm not going to blame the consulate, all right? If they're going to be involved in this stuff, they have to have people who are, that's all they do. That's all they do. They just deal with this issue because it's a pressing issue. It's important. And they should be committing the time, the energy, and the funding to do this in a respectful manner, not to push, to uphold the good name of Poland, which I don't think that slogan should have ever been used. That's not the issue. The issue is to reach the truth, not because if you say, oh, I want to uphold the good name of Poland, that could also mean, well, we're going to hide the bad stuff, and that's how it's being taken, and that's how it's being criticized. And I get that, you know. But we opened ourselves with these slogans instead of just saying, no, we want to see the truth. We need to be able to present the truth, and we have to be able to discuss our observations, what we've experienced, what we've heard, and be able to do it without being labeled and shouted down and censored. But we need to coordinate with Poland, with the historians who are going to actually respond to us, or get out there themselves and start talking.
Thank you very much.
I just would like to say this. I would love to be able to continue this panel discussion, but the fact is that I've been told that we are, there's another organization picking up this room. So Mr. Śliwowski, wherever you are, could you please come and make your final statements? Thank the panel. I know obviously not enough time to cover this very deep issue. Let's give them a hand. And Mr. Marek and Mr. Śliwowski, please come to the podium, and thank you very much for this wonderful 2.5 days.
It looks like we have to interrupt in a very important subject, and obviously we are just scratching the surface of the problem. But unfortunately, that's the time constraints which we have. So I just want to announce two things. First, I want to remind you that today we have all participants of our conference are invited to the world premiere of the opera Three Paderewskis, which is going to take place at the John F. Kennedy Center here in Washington. So if anybody is having plans to do that, please come to me. I will inform you how to get there and get tickets. Second announcement is basically I would like to thank you, to thank those of us who are working with the committee. I haven't mentioned yesterday Cristina Zamorska, who was with us for last half a year working on this conference, and also Mr. Artur, who came from us, Mr. Artur Zysk, who came to us from London. He was not visible, but he is the author of the website, and he was working along with us. Without his participation and contribution, nothing will be possible. Artur, maybe you can come up here and show your face. Why not? You see, he's always very busy. You see, this kind of unpretentious but very dedicated people are making these things possible. I would like to our chairman, Marek Błażejak, to say a few words at the end.
We don't have much time left, so I would like to thank you again for joining us here at the National Press Club. I hope that this first project of the iPoland group will serve as a starting point for future projects. I'd like to mention, for instance, that we would like to work on a project which will focus on the recognition of the former US ambassador to Poland, Arthur Bliss Lane. Between 44 and 47, he resigned from his post after allies betrayed Poland, allowed the elections to be falsified, and he fought for Poland being in the United States. He was ambassador of Poland in the United States, fighting for the truth of Katyn. He was crucial in the creation of the Madden Commission in the House of the Representatives, so this person really deserves recognition. We prepared a petition to the office of the Polish president to award this person, but we have also other projects which have to do with Bliss Lane. We'll also think about other projects. You are all invited to support ideas. Please come to us, send us your feedback. Maybe we'll have a possibility to cooperate together in the future, be it film production, be it a publication, or another conference, another event. A very important subject is the historical narrative in computer games. I liked very much the presentation of Mr. Makowski. I hope you like it too. So perhaps we will organize another conference on this subject, but there are also other topics of interest. So if you have any ideas, please come to us. Thank you again very much.
This concludes our conference. Thank you for your participation.